So this story really annoys me, and I will try and contain my frustration with it. But it's one of those things where it's just so unreasonable and so selfish, so self-centered, that I'm honestly probably going to end up swearing. I'm going to try not to, but this just really bothers me. So there is a project and a series of local groups called the Men in Sheds. And as they tell us on ageuk.org.uk, Men in Sheds is a service run by some local Age UK to support old men who want to get together, share and learn new skills, all in the welcoming space of a shed. Now, the shed is, of course, not necessarily a shed. It could be an old workshop, an office, whatever it is. But it's a space where men can get together. And they say, look, go find a shed. And that brings you to this page, where you notice that it's all completely tailored around men, right? It's the whole point of it is men. And what they're doing, if I can show you, is building stuff together, right? So they get around and they're just building things. It's just men doing wholesome men things, manly things. It's just older guys who clearly are either married or divorced or widowed maybe, and they don't want to be lonely, and so they get together on like whatever night of the week it is, or the weekend or whatever, and they're just making stuff, right? And this is really meaningful to them. And so, they end up making a birdhouse in this case and stuff like this. And this I think is just totally necessary. A space for men to just be men and not have to worry about judgments or gender politics and that just means being around members of the opposite sex. Not worry about anything outside of this. Just come to this particular little community and do a thing. So you're working with your hands, you're constantly physical, you're building something, so you're being constructive. This is a really nice outlet in order to just spend your time and spend your energy being among some mates and make some friends in the process. And so you can go to men'ssheds.org.uk, and if you're a chap who finds himself in this age bracket and this sounds appealing to you, I fully endorse you getting involved. Because, of course, it's not, like I said, a shed, but they're all over the country. And that's great. This is something that I only learned about the other day because of a BBC article, which we'll talk about in a minute. So all over the country, men have been getting together and being like, yeah, so we've got the quote-unquote shed, and we're just going to build things in it. It's going to be great fun, spend a bit of time together, hanging out, chatting, shooting the breeze, and, you'll be able to find your regional shed networks where we do just build stuff. I mean, doing woodworking as a hobby with your mates on like a Friday night or something. I mean, that sounds fun, right? That sounds genuinely appealing to me. If I didn't have wargaming, this is what I would do. This sounds like a brilliant idea. And you can understand that there's a reason that there are women-only spaces, and I fully support women-only spaces. And I fully support the Supreme Court's decision to say that, no, actually, trans women are, in fact, male, and therefore may not go in women-only spaces, because women are adult human females. And so, okay, yep, that's fine. So women who are adult human females get to have spaces away from adult human males, where they get to curate it, they get to create the atmosphere of it, they get to decide the tone and tenor of it, and they get to enjoy it in a way that is non-judgmental from a woman's point of view. And that's what these sheds, I really think they are for men. And so I just hate to see this. We put the pressure on to join Men in Sheds. Why? Why did you do this? Why couldn't you just let them have their thing? Why couldn't you just let them have their goddamn thing? That's such a profoundly selfish thing. Brenda here said a lot of women put the pressure on to join Men in Sheds. Well, the answer should have just been no. The answer should have been flat no, and it was for a long time. Right, we'll go through this. It started out as a gathering to reduce loneliness and combat social isolation amongst elderly men. Right? Yeah, it's a man's space for men, built by men, and suddenly, can we come in, please? No, you can't come in. Now there are more than 1,000 Men in Sheds projects running across the country where men get together, talk, and learn new skills. But while they are many are aimed exclusively at men, one group in Loughborough, Leicestershire, has taken the decision to admit women and members' wives. Member Brenda Needham said, "I kept asking my husband all the while, why can't we join? And the answer is, of course, because you're a woman, and it's called the Men in Sheds. It is a space for men. And instead of going, yeah, you know what, when you're doing that on Thursday or whatever, I'm going to get a hobby of my own and do a hobby for myself. You were like, how can I barge in on my husband's thing? I'm sure that he doesn't get enough of me all day, every day, because these people look like retirees, let's be honest. I'm sure he doesn't get enough of my company. When he's going to hang out with the men in sheds, I need to be there as well. And this is just so goddamn selfish. Because if you really wanted to do woodworking, well, why don't you set up a women in sheds thing? Why don't you just do it on your own? No, you have to be invading their space. That's the point of this. Invading someone else's space because you were defined as not being allowed into it. So you've just said, no, come on, let us in. No, really annoys me. Really, I'm trying to keep my calm, right? The 74-year-old, again, she's got nothing to do all day. She's got nothing to do all day, right? The men were like, yeah, no, we've set this thing up. Go and set your own thing up. Like, there was no way before he started doing this, you were interested in woodworking, right? I'm absolutely certain that's going to be the case. And it's just that you saw him doing it, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go along and do it because I'm bored at home on my own. No, get a hobby. Go join a knitting circle, whatever it is. But anyway, she says, eventually they just let us in, just one morning. Eventually it became all the time, and now it's 50% women, and we absolutely love it. So don't give them an inch, is what she's saying. They let them in one morning, then it became all the time, and now half of the club is women. Brilliant. I'm glad they absolutely love it, but notice for ages, she kept asking, why can't we join? And the husband was like, no, it's for men. No, it's for men. No, it's for men. Eventually they just capitulated. Eventually they're like, yeah, okay, fine. You nagged your way in. You nagged your way into a space that you weren't welcome in, and for some reason you didn't take this as like a form of a hint. Like, if I asked to join a space, whatever the space is, and they're like, no, sorry, you don't fit the criteria for this space, right? If I was like, look, I really want to join, like, I don't know, some woman's knitting circle or whatever, right, or reading group, and they were like, sorry, this is for women only, I wouldn't start nagging. If my wife was going, I'd be like, look, why can't I come? Because you're a man. This is for women. And I wouldn't keep nagging until eventually they'd just let me in for one morning. And then all the time, until half the group was male. I'm like, I think we may have taken over here, guys. And it seems that the women probably aren't getting out of this what they were getting originally. Because whenever and again, it takes a single man or a single woman to be added to a male or female space to change the dynamic entirely. So anyway, the group, which has been renamed Men and Women in Sheds, why didn't you set one up? You could have set that up separately, and I'm sure that people would have gone to it. Now, it's 80 paid-up members. It allows them to learn new skills such as repairing and refurbishing furniture and other household items. And then the group then sells them, with £800 being made at a recent farmers and crafts market. That's very good. Karen says, joining the group has helped improve her mental health, and she was never interested in what was seen as traditional female skills. Okay, but you could have set up your own women's version of this. Not everyone likes sewing and baking. That's true, but the men wanted a space away from you. She says, I think the men were maybe a little concerned at the beginning because they came here to get away from their wives and were worried that we were going to take over, but we haven't done that. We work well together. No, it sounds like you've taken over and they're just too polite to tell you. They wanted to get away from their wives, as you said, and the wives were like, let me in, let me in, let me in. No, absolutely not. And the funny thing is, the men are just very nice chaps. Look of quiet desperation in their eyes. When the women were allowed into the workshop, members decided to keep a quiet room with a model railway display in it just for men. And this is the part that shows me that the women actually were not welcome, and they nagged their way in, which is a kind of form of social bullying to a man of a certain age, a man who is a lot more chivalrous than I am, I imagine, and they still have to keep a quiet room just for men. So when they're like, okay, no, I just want some time away from women, I can go to the model railway room until suddenly, let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in. No, you have to say no. You have to be bold and have boundaries. Andrew says, Andrew, 70, admitted there was initially some resistance to becoming a mixed group. There was apprehension, but in all honesty, it turned out well. Why'd you need the separate quiet room just for men then? If it turned out so great, all you've done is conceded your own space and had to remake another smaller space away from the women, because really that's what you're after. And I'm not saying, as he says here, it's a lovely atmosphere, it's good. Of course, men and women's shared spaces can also be lovely, Obviously, right? When you go to a pub, men and women are there. It's a lovely space. Everyone likes being there. But we, the men, escape now again to the quiet room and have a chat and weigh things up. Isn't that fascinating? We, the men, escape now and again to the quiet room to have a chat. We want to have a conversation that doesn't involve a woman's input. And why shouldn't they be entitled to it? But again, they've been hectored out of the men's clubs. They've been hectored out of any single-sex political sphere of life. And now they set up their own little clubs so men of like mind can go and hang out and do woodwork or whatever. And even there, the women have arrived. And so now they've got the train room. And it's like, no, guys, and this is just the Leicester group, just to be clear. But guys, I'm sorry. If they want a mixed-sex shed group, then set that up. And then set up the men's group and see what happens. But like I said, gentlemen of a certain age, from a certain era, are far more chivalrous than I am. I would be a lot more hard on the boundaries on this. I would just say no, flat out. It would be absolutely not. Tony Donovan, the executive director of the Leicestershire and Rutland one, says, everyone has a story to tell about what life was like before they came here, and in many cases it wasn't great. It's a brilliant, brilliant project, and we're incredibly proud of it. And I agree that the Men in Sheds project is a really brilliant thing. I'm really glad to see something like this. But I hate to see these guys just getting henpecked and henpecked and henpecked further and further back. Look, sometimes we have to escape to the train room to get away from our wives, to get away from the other women that have been let into the group, which is why we set up these groups in the first place. It's just like, man, I just think that's very frustrating. I think it's deeply, deeply selfish on the part of the women to have badgered their way in, henpecked their way in, and not given any consideration to the men who set these groups up. That's what really annoys me the most about this. You don't deserve to be in it. You literally nagged them into allowing you to join their club, and now they have to quote unquote escape from you to another tiny little model railway room so they can have a conversation between men that you're not privy to.